Oh, good times. Good times. How's it going, everybody? Moving on to more positive things outside of the Seattle Thunderbirds. It's baseball season. That's right. A couple years ago, I did a Seattle Mariner music video to that song, so thought I'd use that again. Anyway, so right now the Seattle Mariners, they sit with a record of 3-3. They got one more game going against the Chicago White Sox tomorrow. That's where they stand. We have already taken away. We've already taken 2 from Oakland, 1 from the White Sox, looking to get that series clincher tomorrow as the Hisashi Iwakuma will go up against Chris Sale tomorrow in Chicago before they come home for the opener. As you can see, I am ready to go. Got some holiday gift packs for Christmas, as I just showed you. So I was going to get the 16-game plan this year, but because of those holiday packs and because of my 6-game plan that I purchased, I won't be getting the 16-game plan. So I'll be heading my way to Safeco. Take a look at the pocket schedule. I will be seeing the Angels, possibly, the Angels twice as of right now. The Rangers, a couple Yankees games. I got the Cubs. One game that I really wanted to go to was Ken Griffey Jr. Hall of Fame game. I know that some people might be saying, wait a minute, all you did was bash Ken Griffey Jr. when he wasn't here. Yeah, okay. Hold on. Before you get on me for that, I've gone to every single Seattle Mariners Hall of Fame game, and it's unfortunate that as of right now I am missing Ken Griffey Jr.'s because I will be out of town. But if I don't travel, I will scalp a ticket and I will go because like I said, I've gone to all of the Hall of Fame games. I've seen Alvin Davis get inducted, Dave Niehaus, Jay Buhner, Randy Johnson, Dan Wilson, and Edgar Martinez. So, like I said, if I don't go out of town, I will go to that game. All right, so here is your season preview for the Seattle Mariners. All right, here we go. Let us start out with the starting rotation. Starting rotation to start the season is Felix Hernandez, Hisashi Iwakuma, Joe Saunders, Brendan Maurer, and Blake Bevan. I like it. I got no issues with it. Hernandez is going to be Hernandez. Hisashi, everyone's got their fingers crossed that he is going to continue to pitch like the way he did at the end of last year. Really, really matured last year, and I'm hoping that maturing process he keeps up with that. Because last year he was a bullpen guy, and he thought he was going to be the starter, and it was actually reported in the Seattle Times asking that Hisashi Iwakuma asked Eric Wedge why wasn't he a starter, and Eric Wedge pretty much said, "Have you seen your spring training stats?" And so it took him a while to get going, but he turned in a good second half of the season. So hopefully he keeps that up. Everyone is already questioning Joe Saunders with the way he pitched against the Oakland A's. Number one, I think that's a good move because Joe Saunders has been a Mariner killer throughout his career. We just haven't done well with it. We just haven't done well against him. So I say that if he can turn into a Kevin Millwood type player, awesome. Not concerned about it at all. If he doesn't do well, we got a pile of depth in Tacoma. We got a pile of depth in our bullpen. Brendan Maurer was the big story coming out of spring training. Maurer is right now the only Bill Bavasi draft pick to go through the minor leagues and make his major league debut. That's right. That's saying something. Bill Bavasi was the general manager before Jack Sorenzik, not counting Lee Pelakudis, the interim general manager in 2008 when we fired Bavasi. Based on how Maurer did against the Oakland A's, I just think that he ran out of gas in Game 3 of that series. But for the most part, I thought he pitched well against, he pitched well in a pitcher's ballpark, the Oakland Coliseum, and it will be interesting to see how that continues throughout the season. Same thing with Blake Bevan, ran out of gas against the White Sox, ended up coming away with a no decision. Again, not concerned. So as you probably can see, not really concerned about the pitching staff, the starting rotation. The bullpen, I always am nervous about the bullpen because a bullpen can turn at any moment of the season. It can turn at any time. Mike Salk, former broadcaster for ESPN Seattle, he's now broadcasting in Boston. He brought up a really good point when he first came to Seattle. Relief pitchers are the worst pitchers in baseball. So yes, it's cool that we have a really young bullpen. It's a cheap bullpen, and it's been consistent for the most part the last year. What's very nervous, what makes me nervous is Tom Williamson struggled a little bit in his first real big challenge against the White Sox, giving up a run before he was able to close the door. But a bullpen can turn at any time. It can turn at any time. So, again, not too concerned, but every single time, we bring in the bullpen, at least for the first portion of the season, I'm definitely on my edge of my seat. Just knowing the fact that something bad could happen. Prime example, look at 2009 when the Mariners won 85 games. Okay? The bullpen was the reason why we won all those games with that poor offense. Now, granted, in 2010, our big problem was we couldn't hit, but the fact that the bullpen imploded in the middle of the season, that did not help out. So, pitching, I'm really not concerned about. We're stacked in the minor leagues. We're stacked. We got depth, and as long as everybody stays healthy, I'm pretty sure we'll be successful there. Now on to the hitting. Now, the Mariners finally have some pop in their lineup. They got Michael Morris, who's off to an outrageous start. Kendrys Morales has done well in his first full week of the season. And a guy by the name of Franklin Gutierrez is starting to show some offense. He's already hit 2 leadoff home runs to start the game. But this is the big wild card. At the end of the day, even the Seattle Times brought up in their preview section, this team is dominantly made out of young kids. And it's do or die for Justin Smoak. I mean, this is it, okay? I've been patient with Smoak. I have met the guy. I think he's a nice guy. He's got a nice family. Yes, when I was working for the Mariners, I met Justin Smoak, his wife, and his mother all in the same week. So, they're nice people. They are. But this is it. If you are not batting the way you should be by June, you need to get off this team. Then just period. You've had no excuses. You're healthy. You haven't had a death in the family. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised that he's still in the lineup. Now, granted, the last couple nights he's been used as a bench player, but going into the season, Eric Wedge said Justin Smoak is the first baseman of our team. Now, what's very nervous about that is every single time Eric Wedge has said that to a particular player, usually that means that player, this is the player's last chance. And the player is either going to succeed or the player is going to hang himself. Milton Bradley and Sean Figgins are the other 2 players Eric Wedge has done this to. Prime example. Sean Figgins, you're going to be in left field / third base, and you're going to be batting leadoff. This is your position. Now go out and do something with it. Well, guess what? He didn't do anything with it. Off the lineup. Out of the lineup. Now off the team. Same thing with Milton Bradley. Okay? You got a starting role. Now go ahead and go run with it. Where's Milton Bradley now? This is it for Smoak. The other guy that I still think he's got a little bit of a chance left in him is Dustin Ackley. Dustin Ackley has been struggling to start the season. However, he is batting lower in the lineup, so I'm hoping that helps because people have a tendency to look at the top half of the lineup as a bigger threat than the bottom. And I was going to harp on Brendan Ryan, but going into the game against the series against the Chicago White Sox, he was batting .400. So I'll be leaning on him now, but he's also on his last legs with me. I mean, so Smoak, Ryan, you don't produce this year. It's time to move on. It's unfortunate because I like both guys as people. I do. I think they're very nice. If you ever want an entertaining baseball interview, go listen to Brendan Ryan. So I'm just hoping those 2 guys produce. Jason Bay, as I talked about, he's kind of, again, not a low-risk type player. Not really too concerned about him if he does well or not. One of the big storylines was since Kendrys Morales and Justin Smoke are going to be in the lineup at the same time, Jesus Montero is going to get more time behind the plate. And a lot of people are questioning Jesus Montero's defense. I'm not. Maybe I didn't watch a lot of games last year when he was behind the plate, but from what I saw, I thought he did a decent job. For a team that's not contending, I thought he did a decent job. So we'll have to watch that as well. I'll tell you this. It is very interesting. It's very weird. Not interesting. It's very weird to look at the Mariners lineup and not see Ichiro at the number 1 spot. I'm still getting used to that. The bats have to come alive, though, this year. At this point, there is no excuse. There's no excuse. 2 reasons. Number 1, this is Jackson Renzig's 5th year. This is Jackson Renzig's 5th year. So if we do not see any type of improvement with the bats, then people are going to be starting to question Jackson Renzig and starting to wonder whether or not he's on the hot seat. More on that later. Number 2, as much as I really wish that they didn't do this, the fences at Safeco Field have been moved in. Now, granted, it hasn't been as dramatic as I thought it would be. It's like 3-5 feet, depending on where you are at the ballpark. But you move the fences in to help your batters. So if you don't hit in your ballpark, now you really don't have an excuse. Because before, you would have people saying, oh, well, Safeco is a pitcher's ballpark. Therefore, the Mariners are not going to hit very well. Oh, in April and May, it's kind of cold. They're going to be, trying to swing the bat when it's hard to do that in cold weather. Okay, well, now there's not an excuse. Now, really, there's not an excuse. Frankly, I wish they didn't do anything to the ballpark. I thought that move was a cop-out. I still do think that is a cop-out. But it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. So those are the 2 reasons why the bats must come alive. And if the bats don't come alive, well, now it's time to start looking at maybe potentially getting some other players and replacing guys like Justin Smoke and Brendan Ryan. That also being said, this year, now granted, I'm excited, okay? I like a lot of what I've seen in the first 6 games. Okay, the Mariners have been in every single game, with the exception of 1. For the most part, it looked like some players just got tired. Some young pitchers got tired, and that's the reason why we struggled a little bit, allowing runs and losing a couple of games here and there. But the Mariners, in my book, don't necessarily need to have a winning season. They need to avoid 87 losses. Last year, I harped on 90. Okay? We lost 87 games last year. It's an improvement. Now it's time to avoid 87. If we finish around the 500 mark, that's a successful season. If we don't finish with at least 79 wins, I want to say, 79, 78, that range, then I think there's a good chance that Jack Cerenzic's contract won't be renewed. We can't have another 95, 101 loss season, because that's just going to kill this whole youth movement that we've been going throughout the last few years. That's just what's going to happen. And what also is, I know this team, I'm sounding like we need to go out and win the World Series. We don't need to go out and win a World Series. We need to be competitive. We need to be competitive. This is Jack Cerenzic's last year in his contract. This is the last opportunity that he has before we go into the offseason or even during the summer, where we're starting to think, oh, wait, do we resign Jack Cerenzic or do we let him go? Same thing with Eric Wedge. This is Eric Wedge's last year in his contract. It's either this year or next year, now that I think about it. But I'm pretty sure it's this year. So we need to show some signs of improvement with the bats, with the overall record, and we need to be competitive. We can't have these soccer scores anymore. We can't be competing. If the Mariners are going to play, nothing against soccer, but, if the Mariners are going to play these 1-0, 2-0 games, they're going to lose. If they play like the way they did against the Oakland A's in the first game against Chicago, where they put up at least 3 to 4 runs every single game, then we got an opportunity to finish the season with a winning record. Now, what doesn't help is that we play in the toughest division of all in all of baseball. Texas, still a powerhouse. The Angels are easy favorites, you know, with the money they spent and the additions of Josh Hamilton. The A's are always a wild card. The only one that I think the Mariners should win would be the Astros, Houston Astros. But then again, stranger things have happened. What I'm nervous is that everyone's going to take the Houston Astros for granted, and then when the Mariners play them, that's when they're going to get all their wins. That's what my fear is with that team. But this division is up for grabs. Early predictions, I do have the Oakland A's winning the division again, but the reason why is because they are the defending champs. Because I think you can make a good, solid case for the Rangers, Angels, and Athletics to win this division. Number one, the A's do things a little differently. We saw them last year. They still got a good team. We all know how I feel about them. Therefore, they could win the division. Again, the reason why I have them winning the division because they're the defending champs. Number two, you got the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. The additions of Josh Hamilton. And the improvements in the pitching staff. Then you got the Texas Rangers. Well, Texas is always going to produce hitting-wise. So the fact that they lost Hamilton and they lost Mike Napoli and Michael Young, that doesn't concern me. What concerns me is their pitching staff. Because you're always going to hit in Texas. You always will. And they still have a decent starting rotation and a decent bullpen that can get them to the postseason. So, again, this division is up for grabs. Where are the Mariners going to finish? I think realistically that will finish fourth, but I can see if certain things happen, I can see them at least finishing as best as third, which is way better than last place. Thank you, Houston Astros. So, again, overall expectations, I say that the M's, they need to finish around the 500 mark. The closer they can get to 82 and 80 or 81, 81, the better. They lose more than 87 games. They lose 88 games. This season is a disappointment. It doesn't matter how good the bats have been or how good the pitching staff is. The season is a disappointment. The Mariners need to show their fan base and they need to show the community and everybody else that they are making progression. And they're making progress with the moves they made and with the way they're playing. And I think there's a good chance. Overall, I do think there's a good chance for that to happen, particularly in the offensive side of the category. Because number one, we got Mike Morris for 1 year. We got Kendrys Morales for 1 year. And guess who also is in a contract year? Franklin Gutierrez. You think the guy who's been plagued with injury after injury after injury after injury wants to prove something? This is it for him. This is last year in his contract. So, go M's. Looking forward to seeing a ton of games at Safeco Field this year. And let's be competitive. Like I said, I'm not saying the Mariners need to go out and win the World Series, but they definitely do need to be competitive in order to be successful this year. As far as my stance with Jack Sorensic, well, like I said I would give him one more year after this because of what happened in 2009. Because I approved everything that he did in 2009, and look what happened. So I cut him a break. So Jack Sorensic's not on the hot seat yet for me, but I know he is for a lot of other fans. So, thanks for watching. Let's go M's. I'll be filming, hope to film some M's games this year, and we'll talk to you all later.